Okay, so in this video we're going to demonstrate briefly how to use JASP. Okay, how to use JASP. This is the software that we're going to use for our demo and statistical analysis today. So for JASP, we can access JASP at JASP-stats.org, and this is the free software, but it's very flexible and powerful. When you click on the download, you see there are options to download for Windows, for Mac OS, or Linux. Alright, for me, I'm using Mac OS and I have downloaded and installed it on my personal laptop. Okay, the next step for us is to look at the data. Okay, now here I have a test data. Basically, I have from RH1 to RH6, it is reading habits. Okay, I have 6 statements and it's all used like a scale. The same thing for here SRL, which is self-regulated learning, and I also have 6 statements in like a scale. Okay, now the next step for us, oh, by the way, I have a few background variable data, such as the gender, the age, the reading frequency, reading genre, and perceived English proficiency. Alright, so this is our data, and we're gonna test some very basic and descriptive and inferential statistics for today. Now the first step I would like to do is to calculate the average score. Okay, so alright, which is reading habits, the average score. Now currently it is these items, those responses have not been coded yet. We need to code it into number so that we can do average score. Okay, so it's very easy. Let's start with so it depends on the scale. In my case, I have the scale 1 to 6. Okay, from strongly disagree to disagree, slightly disagree, slightly agree, and strongly agree. So is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6? Okay, so that's the code that we have, and I wouldn't code exactly like that. It should be strongly agree. Okay, so this is agree. So if you look at it, this one, it should be 5. So we're gonna turn it into 5. Okay, and this is slightly agree. So if you look at this, slightly agree, it's gonna be 3. Oops, hello again. Slightly agree, yes, it's gonna be 4. Sorry, it's gonna be 4, something like that. Okay, but we're not going to do it manually like that. We just go ahead and find and replace. Okay, so slightly agree, which is 4. So copy and you find and you replace with 4. All right. The next one is strongly agree, which is 6. So you do the same thing. Here's a 5 and you replace with 6. Okay, replace all. Now slightly disagree, which is number 3. So go ahead, copy that and replace with number 3. Okay, what else do we have now? We have disagree. If you turn over here, yeah, basically we have disagree. So for disagree, you will replace it. If you look again at this, disagree E2. for this agree, and then to reply. Okay, and agree is 5, so we're going to reply them with 5. Right, now it's all numbers now. Okay, so look good so far. Alright, the next step is to calculate the average. So average, the reason why we calculate average is because we're not going to do individual analysis for each item, which is one the composite score. Now we want to round it. I want to round it to 2 decimal like this, and there I have the first one. The same thing for self-regulated learning. Again, this is reading and this is self-regulated learning. I want to see if there is a relationship there. The same thing, we need a column to the left, and we're gonna name it SRL. Same thing, we're gonna do we're gonna just copy this one all the way here, pass it here. H3, that's correct. Seems to be correct so far. Yeah, so yep, look good. Okay, I think it's pretty much ready. Now the next thing is just to download it. I think our data set is ready. We have finished the coding of the data. So before we load it in the software, the JASP, we actually don't need this because the data heading is only one row like this. So we're gonna go ahead and delete the row. Okay. For ease of reading, if you want, you can make it center like this. Otherwise, it won't matter. Now, how about we download it? I recommend using CSV formats because it's more statistical software friendly. Now we save it somewhere. In this case, for example, I will save it on my desktop called test data. Now the next step for us is to, once you download and install, you go ahead and open. Now you can go to computer and browse, and then you click where you save it and you load it in. Okay, now you have a look at this. Now there's edit data here. If you want, you can change to edit data view, and you can change the type of data if you want. For example, this is ordinal, which is like a scale. I like to keep it that way, but sometimes ordinal we can't really calculate it. That's why we have to code it into numbers and then calculate the average points. But if you want, you can turn it into scale for easier statistical analysis. Otherwise, you can keep it ordinal. But if you keep it as ordinal, often the software won't calculate the mean. It will treat it ordinal and calculate the frequency. But because I already have the average composite score, so I'm going to focus on that. I don't need to change these into scale. Frequency is fine for me now because this is just a demo video. Okay, so it looks good so far. I got the reading habits, I got the self-regulated learning, gender. This is a nominal. Okay, this is the nominal. Nominal means there is no ranking or order in numerical value. Is like female and male. There is no numerical value like male is larger or smaller. It's just two types. Alright, once you're happy with the data, and everything else, you can go ahead and click on the analysis view. Okay, so for the analysis view, how about we save? Okay, for analysis view, you look at the top bar, you see that we got descriptive, t-test, ANOVA, mixed models, factor and things like that. These are very basic. Okay, if you want to add further, you can go ahead and click on this plus icon where we have a lot more options. For example, if you want to check the reliability of the scale, you click on reliability and it will show up here. Okay, if you uncheck, it disappear. All right, so I want to start by showing you how we can run cron batch alpha reliability analysis for the scale. Okay, you click on reliability and then you need dimensional reliability. Remember, you need to add it this one first. Okay, you need dimensional reliability like this, and then you pick the items you want to check the internal consistency. For example, I have reading habits 1 to 6, pass in here, and you see that it has calculated the McDonald omega for me, which is 0.84. Okay, but if you click on the analysis, you have a lot more options, such as the coefficient Cronbach alpha, which is the one we often use. So if you have a look at this, you see that the value is 0.67, which is below the recommended value. Okay, but these are people recommend using the coefficient McDonald alpha. Something else you can do, if you want, you can click about. You can actually calculate the mean and the standard deviation for the scale statistics. Okay. And there are a few more options below. Okay, but we're not going to touch that for now. Alright, looks all good. Now the next type of analysis is descriptive analysis, which is very basic. If you want to run the descriptive analysis, you click on descriptive statistics. For example, you want to see the mean, okay, or you want to count the gender and even the age. So whichever variables you want to look at, the descriptive statistics, should drag and drop or click on the arrow here. Okay, if you look at this, you see that the mean, if you click on transpose, it's easier to read for me. If you read on transpose, you see the reading habit, the mean is 4, standard deviation is 0.7, and the cell regular learning is spread a bit further, and it's at high mean. Okay, now for gender and age, gender and age, oh, age here, it still show ordinal. It should be scale. Okay, when you turn into scale, you see the mean and the standard deviation. Something else I'd like to show you, that if you want to count the frequency, you go down here to the table, you click on frequency, and then we want to look frequency for female. If you don't want to see them, you can move them back. Okay, you can move them. Just go back here if that's okay. Yeah. If you want to look at the frequency, then just drop whatever variable you want, and you see the frequency here is 70% in male and 30% I'm sorry, 70% in female and 30% is male. And this is there are only 10 participants, because this is just a demo, so we don't have a lot of participants for this. So that's it for the descriptive statistic. Now the last statistic I'd like to show you is t-test. Okay, and then for other, it's ANOVA regression, pretty much the same. So for t-test, for example, I want to see if there's a difference in terms of the reading habits between gender. I go to independent sample t-test. Now this is the reading habits. I will treat it as dependent variables. For the group variable, which is you want to see gender, there are in this data we got male and female. So we pass in the group gender here, and then if you have a look, you see that the p-value is larger than 0.05. So there's no difference in some of the reading habits for between gender male and female. Okay, but there are other plots effect side that you can try if you want to see the effect side. Okay, or some descriptive some descriptive statistics, even plot, yeah, even plot if you want to. What about rainbow? This is rainbow plots and horizontal display, okay, or bar plot. So whichever you want. Okay, you can check for normality and a Levine equality of variance. Okay, so if you see assumption check, the p-value is larger than suggest significant results suggest a deviation, but this one there's no deviation. Okay, so we will read this one like this. Okay, looks all good so far. There's no difference. There's no difference, although if you look you see that the mean is that the male got a bit higher than the female, but that doesn't reach statistical significance.